So if you can believe it, there's only about 25 games left in the NBA regular season. And being the depressed Bulls fan that I am, I started looking to the offseason and I said, oh my gosh, this is going to suck as well. And that led me to thinking about other teams and how their off seasons are going to go. And I was like, hey, I should make a video about this. So I figured I'd focus on a particular team, that being the San Antonio Spurs, and say, hey, if I was the GM and I was in the current situation that they were in, what would an ideal offseason look like to me? And then I built this spreadsheet because, of course, I did. I build spreadsheets for everything. I'm kind of a Google Sheets Excel nerd. I threw this together in 10 minutes, so at me if you don't like it. All right. In essence, I've got the 2024-2025 roster, like everybody that's got guaranteed money for the next year. Got them there. We've got our money. We know how much cap space we're working with. We know how much luxury tax space we're working with, and we're going to try to build out the rest of this 15-man roster for San Antonio so that we can build upon what they really had going this year. Because the Spurs overall this season was a success because Victor Wembanyama is very, very good, and that's all that really matters. They've got their franchise player now. They've got their cornerstone. He might just be the face of the NBA. All the predictions seem to be true. So far, he just is that good, which no surprise. If you watched any film on this guy before the season, you were like, this guy's going to dominate everybody. But yeah, let's act as if we are the GM for the Spurs, and let's put together what would be a nice next step as this young Spurs team kind of tries to figure out its identity and tries to continue to build around Wembanyama and push towards some playoff success maybe next year. So what better way to start this than looking at the draft, right? The Spurs are going to have their own draft pick this year. As of right now, they'd have the third pick, and this latest mock draft has them taking Rasacher, which, if that were the case, I think they'd be pretty happy about that. I know Topic is a guy that makes a lot of sense because of the point guard need and everything. In this case, the latest mock draft had them taking Rasacher, which, I mean, another French dude, kind of cool, right? Just in itself. So I think we're just going to assume that this is what's going to happen for now. I mean, who knows at the end of the day, right? But we're going to throw Rasacher in here. And I know because I've looked at other NBA contracts and stuff that a third overall pick is going to make about $9.7 million. And we get him for 4 seasons. Now, Rasacher, where does he fall into the lineup? All right, I decided to put a little roster spots left thing here as well so that we know how many we're working with. So we're already only down to 2 roster spots, and we got to figure out where Rasacher's gonna go, and I'm gonna assume that he's sliding in at the starting 3. So I'm gonna put Rasacher here. We're gonna move both of you fellas down 1, and then we'll move Keldon to kind of that 6-man role that we've seen him play a little bit this year. And I know some Spurs fans are thinking like, hey, we should trade Keldon Johnson or something like that. I think it's a little too early to do something like that. We've seen good scoring out of him and stuff before. Is he going to encapsulate a 20-point-a-game scorer again? That I don't exactly know, especially with all these other dudes on the team that are going to be getting their shots up, like Vassell and Wembanyama, right? I mean, Sohan wants his buckets as well. You throw Rasacher on there, he's a shooter, right? And he's a better floor spacer. He makes more sense next to Wembanyama. Plus, they can speak French to each other. They can call plays in French. That's awesome. But I don't want to trade Keldon Johnson just yet. Like, ideally, some people are saying, hey, let's go get Trae Young. Let's go fill that point guard role. Keldon Johnson's an initial piece that you can throw into all that. I doubt the Hawks are like all that interested in Keldon Johnson to begin with. They just have a lot going on at that position anyway. I guess if they have to get something back for him, they have to get something back for him. But I just don't necessarily see that being a move that makes a ton of sense. And I also don't want Trae Young on this team. I'm thinking we hit free agency and go find ourselves a point guard. I don't really see anybody that we're trying to necessarily package and trade right now. So looking at the rest of the salary cap that we have then, knowing that we're not going to be making any trades this offseason, we've just drafted Rasacher. He's our new starting 3. We've got $7 million in cap space, but we have $37 million in total if we want to go into the luxury tax, which you have Wembanyama on your team. You're selling a shit ton of tickets and everything, so I'm not too worried about going into the luxury tax if I'm the Spurs. Maybe you're a little bit worried early. And what begins to be challenging is guys like Vassell's contract are starting to be big. Zach Collins has a pretty big contract for a backup center, and maybe that's something we look to move in like during the season or something if someone else becomes available. Zach Collins is a nice backup guy, but maybe a team would rather have a Zach Collins, or maybe there's another contract we can take on or something. I don't know, but a lot of the money's used up right about there. There's also Devontae Graham, who's an expiring deal, who maybe we can trade to get somebody in the middle of the season. I don't know. He'd probably be a part of a Trae Young deal if something like that were to happen. But Needless to say, we've got some money to work with. We got to address this point guard spot. So Trey Jones is a nice basketball player. At the end of the day, we're seeing 9.7 points per game out of him. What's concerning is this 3-point stat. Like, it just hasn't figured itself out yet, like, at all. Like, it's nice that he's got a good free throw percentage, great assist guy. He doesn't commit a ton of turnovers or anything like that, right? He's kind of like Tyus in a lot of aspects, except maybe a little more athletic, a little quicker. But and anyway, we need to find somebody that can space the floor a little bit. Like, as you can see, that's kind of what we're trying to go for here. You got someone like Wembanyama that attracts so much gravity, especially if he's going to operate sometimes down on the block or something like that. So we've added Rasacher to space the floor a little bit. Let's get a point guard that can both play in the pick and roll with Wembanyama, as well as space the floor a little bit. Maybe he can work a little bit off ball. And what I've done here is I've pulled up all the 2024 free agents that are point guards, and a name sticks out to me, and that's D'Angelo Russell right here. D'Angelo Russell has a player option, I believe, for his last year. And honestly, like, D'Lo's had like a quietly good season. I know we all like to crap on him and stuff at times, but like, D'Lo's still getting you 17 points a game. He's shooting 41% from three. Like, the assists are there. The turnovers maybe a little bit high. But you know what? I'm not too worried about that. And D'Lo's had a lot of experience playing off ball at times too. And the reason he's playing off ball, he'd still be the primary ball handler, is that sometimes you want to let Wembanyama cook in like the middle of the court or something like that, and you can maybe run some handoff action with a guy like D'Lo. You're not going to get some of those nice cuts that you sometimes see Trey Jones get, where he'll sometimes just like backdoors dude, and Wemby will hit him with like a nice bounce pass or something like that. But like, he can still play with Trey sometimes and everything. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we go up to D'Angelo Russell and we pitch to him and we call his agent before the season and everything and go, hey, we'll bring you in here, give you a nice like 2-year like fat contract or something, right? Because by then we're off of guys like Zach Collins and stuff. We're off of guys like Bassie and maybe even like a Trey Jones and Devontae Graham. By the time those contracts are up, Wembanyama will be like in like his like true form by then, and we're gonna have some money that we can move around to play with. Plus, we don't want to give too big of a contract as well, just because like we're going to have to pay guys like Sohan eventually, right? Hopefully a Rasacher's good enough. Yeah, like we have to figure out what we're doing with a Keldon Johnson and everything. So I'm thinking we throw like a nice little 2-year fat contract at D'Angelo Russell. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to pull Russell up here, and we're going to give Russell $25 million for 2 seasons. So I'm bringing in D'Lo here. I'm going to fix my formatting and stuff too. What kind of Excel guy am I tell you. But here's the thing. We're out of cap space now. We're paying luxury tax now. So, but we only have one more roster spot we have to fill as well. But I like that we've brought D'Lo onto this team now to play with Wembanyama, help facilitate maybe some easier shots for Vassell. What's really nice about this team is we have a couple guys with ball handling experience now. So now we've got guys like Trey coming off the bench, right? We've got Trey, we've got Devontae Graham, so we have our point guards figured out. Let's put Russell in here. So now this is our new starting lineup, right? And like I was saying, we've got ball handling now. Like Sohan, not a point guard, we learned that this year, but a decent enough ball handler for his position, right? Can get in some actions, can get moving downhill and stuff. Wembanyama, more than capable of doing that stuff. Vassell sometimes makes bad decisions right now, but he's young. But you have a new primary ball handler, along with all these other guys that have some ball handling experience. And now all of a sudden, you've got yourself a little bit of Spurs basketball starting to cook again. Picture Rasacher in this sense as the Michael Porter Jr. of this team. That's what he gets compared to a lot, but he's athletic enough to play in transition as well, attack closeouts. He's kind of a hybrid of Michael Porter, but man, his catch and shoot game is nuts, especially for his size and everything. So you've got a pretty big lineup now, especially with Wemby on the team, right? But you've got a lot of height here, a lot of height with Sohan, with Wemby. D'Lo himself is a pretty big guard. Vassell's no slouch at all. You've got ball handling, you've got shooting, and you've got size. And that makes for something good right here. So now the last thing I kind of want to address is I want to find like a veteran kind of big stretch or something like that to come off the bench. So here's what I want to do. I want to go to kind of like the wing position, maybe even like power forward, and start looking here a little bit. Like Kelly Olynyk will be back somewhere else. Robert Covington's not really what I'm thinking. Not necessarily Kyle Anderson or Taurean Prince. I gotta find exactly what I'm looking for. Maybe we go to the small forward or something and we take a look around here. Just lost Doug McDermott, so you literally couldn't go and get him if you wanted. There's a Jay Crowder option, an Otto Porter Jr. Chetty Osman will be a free agent. Is it worth bringing him back? It's not exactly the role that I imagined. Looking at a guy like Derek Jones Jr. right now is a little bit more what I'm thinking, more of an even-keeled type player. He's getting 9 points a game this year. The 34% from three is interesting. He's done a lot of catch and shoot this year, so that's nice. We know he can attack closeouts and everything. I wonder what it costs to bring him in versus like a Chetty Osman or something like that, though. Like, what really is more valuable? Because looking at this roster, you know, we're kind of thin at this 4 spot. Like, obviously, Rasacher can play it a little bit. Keldon Johnson has played it at points. Like, the 4 is pretty much the place to put an extra wing right now anyway. But I would like some guy that can play above the rim a little bit more, maybe be a little bit defensive, kind of guard multiple wings. And that's why I'm kind of thinking of Derek Jones Jr. makes some sense. You know what? I've decided I'm actually going to go with another Frenchman because that makes more sense to me. We go talk to Nicolas Batum and we tell him, hey, we need you to come coach all these young Frenchmen right here. This is your chance to come play with Pop and everything. You're towards the end of your career. We give you a veteran minimum to kind of be more of a coaching figure on the team. I don't know if a championship team is necessarily going to pick him up this year. So I'm looking at Batum here. We give him a, what is the veteran minimum anyway? The veteran minimum is $2.72 million. So let's give him $2.72 million for one season here. And now we've got ourselves a little roster here. So we throw Batum in here at the backup 4, and we've got our 15-man roster here, right? This is assuming we bring everybody back from last year. That was my presumption, and just looking at the roster, I think that makes the most sense, especially since like we didn't have a ton of cap space to play with anyway because we are paying guys like Vassell. Zach Collins does take up a lot of money. But now let's think about this rotation again, right? We've got our starting lineup of Russell, Vassell, Rasacher, Sohan, Wembanyama, right? Very similar to this last year, except we've thrown in a nice promising young rookie, right? And a better version of Trey Jones. Off the bench, you still have Trey Jones. He's going to be one of the first guys off the bench. It's probably him and Zach Collins, right? Or no, excuse me, I completely forgot about Keldon Johnson already. Keldon Johnson's first guy off the bench. He's your 6-man scorer. Let him just go get his buckets, right? That's what he wants to do out there. He's going to go get his buckets. We love that for him. He gets to play with guys like Trey Jones, who are willing to facilitate, Zach Collins, who can just be a decent backup center in the NBA. I mean, he started most of this season and played just fine, so I feel very good about that. And then you've got some floor spacers in like Champagny and Batum that you can go to. And most importantly, Batum is a veteran presence on the team. The French thing, it's a bigger deal than you'd probably think it is. Just having guys that can speak your natural language and everything makes you more comfortable on the team. He's a respected figure to these young French players. Like, he just seems like a guy that would play well with Popovich as well. So he comes in, he gives us 10, 12 minutes of just good floor spacing and everything. And I think we got a decent little team. And we've also set ourselves up so that after this season, you know, Devontae Graham falls off the team. Maybe we look to re-sign Trey Jones depending on how he's playing. We're only locked into D'Lo for one more year if it doesn't work out. But D'Lo got his pay raise because he was only going to get $18 million if he stayed with the Lakers. Here he gets to go be that guy, play with Wembanyama, get a ton of TV time as well, which is big. So maybe we even give him like a player option or something in this contract. That could be an interesting little thing to look at just to try and incentivize him to come to the team. Be like, hey, get a bunch of media attention, make yourself really valuable again, and then go get another big contract or something, right? Like, because he only might get one more. But I like this roster, y'all. I'm very curious to see what you guys think of kind of this idea of exploring what an offseason would look like. And in other scenarios, maybe we'd investigate trades or something like that. But I don't see an obvious one here. I don't like the Trae Young trade idea. I don't think that makes any sense. I shouldn't say it doesn't make any sense. I understand Trae Young's good at basketball. They need a point guard. Plug him in. He can space the floor a little bit. He's a good pick and roll player. Wembanyama looks great in the pick and roll. I think you can get a lot of that with D'Lo, though, and you don't have to lose out on so much defensively that Trae Young struggles with. And I can't picture Trae Young playing within a Popovich-style like offense as well. Like, the Spurs are never like that, just ball dominant, like, let's play basketball. Like, Trae Young's going to have to move off ball. I don't think the fit makes a ton of sense. Why give up the draft picks when, you know, you're still building so much anyway? I'd rather do something like this. I'd rather roll out this team, and I'd feel pretty good if I was a Spurs fan with this team. But hey, let me know what you think. I'm just kind of here throwing stuff together. Let me know what you guys think of my spreadsheet and everything. Leave me a comment, subscribe, do all that stuff, and let me know what team I should do next, because I think this is kind of a cool activity, and I want to explore what this can look like for all these teams that don't have much to look forward to for the rest of this season. So yeah, let me know what team I should do next, and thank you all for watching as always. I appreciate it.